Welcome to Remnant 101 at the City on a Hill Church. I'm Associate Pastor Benji Lalayan. God's remnant practices a pure tongue for when Jesus returns. I'm going to read a couple of verses once again, and I've read these verses before, but listen up anyway. Proverbs 18:21 says, "Death and life are in the power of the tongue, and those who love it will eat its fruit." And then we move on to Matthew chapter 12, verses 36 and 37. These are the words of Jesus. He says, "But I say to you that for every idle word men may speak, they will give account of it in the day of judgment. For by your words you will be justified, and by your words you will be condemned." Every idle word. I want you to consider this a combination of two things. Number one, what I've talked about several times about your tongue. And number two, an expansion on one of the things that my dad said when we were sweeping our houses a few weeks ago. And what he said was, if Jesus were to come to earth and walk into your house, what would he find? Would there be anything unclean or anything he wouldn't be pleased with seeing? Now I want you to ask yourself that same question from the perspective of how you conduct yourself with your tongue. If Jesus were to walk by you, having a regular conversation with a friend or a relative, or even just by yourself in private, what kind of things would he hear you say? Gossip, profanity, maybe even lying? Or how about those little moments, I like to call them little fox moments, where you let go of your self-control when you maybe stub your toe hard or something, or slam your hand in a door? What would Jesus hear coming out of your mouth? Or how about when you're going through trials here on earth? Would Jesus hear you complaining, lamenting, spewing negativity with your words? Or would he hear words of prayer and exaltation to God, committing the situation and everything else into his hands, while also saying, "Lord, let your will be done"? Did the scripture in Matthew that I read not have Jesus himself saying that we would be judged for every idle word? We're building an invisible ark in preparation for bringing Jesus back. And we know that the prophet said destruction is coming. And considering what the verse in Proverbs says about the tongue holding the power of life and death, and how we know that holiness and separation are needed for this ark, I think it's been made pretty clear how big a role the tongue is going to play in the building of the ark. The holiness and the separation, making sure that we're on the right side of things when the destruction comes. Now, what exactly does your words have to do with separation? The devil has filled the world and the church world with idle words. Hollow worship and prayer, saying things that may sound okay but don't encourage making an effort for pleasing God. And I've even heard about some churches' leaders telling their youth group teachers not to reprimand their students for using foul language and just letting them be themselves so they can be comfortable with them. And if you ask me, it's obvious that the tongue is a way that we as the remnant need to make an effort to separate by. Maybe you've heard me talk about the tongue before, and maybe it's spoken to you. Maybe you've tried to make a little change here and there, but haven't highly prioritized it. This message is to create a sense of urgency for that. I know I've been saying that a lot lately, but now is the time to get it all in order. The last days of the last days. Don't let yourself be too late for the door of the ark being shut. Don't let your words keep you from holiness, from being here to bring Jesus back. Make a hard effort in every situation that you're in, without taking breaks, to practice what we know Jesus wants to hear from our mouths. Make it so that with every single word that you say, you can confidently say, "I cannot wait to talk to Jesus face to face," and know that he will be pleased to hear what you say. God bless you.